This chapter is an introduction to the morning of August 10th, 2026. It was a Monday when a big earthquake hit Colombia. At exactly 7:34 a.m., the ground in the western part of the country started to shake violently. In Cali, which is Colombia's third largest city, a taxi driver named Jorge Moncayo was at his house. His home was high up on a hill, looking over the city. From there, he saw something truly frightening. Large clouds of dust began to rise into the sky across the city. Below him, many buildings started to crumble and fall apart. "My entire house shook very hard," Jorge said later, still in shock. "I have never felt such a powerful earthquake in my life." Many others across the region shared his fear and surprise. The earthquake's beginning was very deep under the ground. It happened in Chocó, one of Colombia's poorest and most remote areas. From this deep point, strong waves of shaking, called shock waves, moved outwards. They were so strong that people felt them in 4 different countries at the same time: Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, and Venezuela. About 34 million people across these 4 nations felt the earth move. For some, like those in tall buildings in Quito, Ecuador, it was a gentle swing. But for towns closer to the earthquake's starting point, especially those known for growing coffee, the shaking was very violent. It caused buildings to fall down. This earthquake measured 7.4 on the scale used by scientists to rate earthquakes. It was the strongest earthquake to hit Colombia in over 10 years. It also became one of the deadliest earthquakes recorded in the country's modern history. People quickly started to ask questions. Why did this earthquake cause such widespread panic among 34 million people? And why did it spread across 4 countries, yet areas right near the coast were completely untouched? There was no big ocean wave, no tsunami. These questions showed how unusual this earthquake was. This book will share the story of that Monday morning. It will explain what truly happened, why the ground moved in such a way, and what this disaster means for Colombia. It also raises important questions for other big cities around the world that are built on moving ground. Millions of people woke up to a sudden catastrophe. They desperately tried to escape the falling rubble and ruined buildings. They did not know if their loved ones were safe or if another, even deadlier shock was about to strike. The country held its breath, facing an uncertain future. 2. The Big Shake. At 7:34 in the morning, on August 10th, 2026, a strong earthquake hit western Colombia. It measured 7.4 on the moment magnitude scale. This powerful shake started deep underground, about 107 kilometers below the surface. Its epicenter was close to San José del Palmar, a small community of about 4,800 people. This town is in the Chocó region, an area known for its dense rainforests and being very isolated. It is also one of Colombia's poorest departments. Because the earthquake happened so deep, its energy spread out widely across the land. This kind of deep event is called an intermediate depth earthquake. It means the shaking was not concentrated in one small area, but reached far away. That is why people felt the ground move in 4 different countries at the same time: Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, and Venezuela. Even tall buildings in cities like Quito, Ecuador, felt a strong sway hundreds of miles from the quake's origin. About 34 million people across these 4 nations felt the shaking in some form, from a gentle movement to violent convulsions that toppled buildings near the epicenter. This was the strongest earthquake Colombia had seen in more than 10 years, and one of the deadliest in its modern history. Right after the earthquake, different geological agencies started to measure it. The United States Geological Survey reported it was 7.4 magnitude. However, Colombia's own geological survey reported a similar magnitude, but at a slightly shallower depth of around 96 kilometers. These small differences in initial reports are normal and often happen in the first hours after a major earthquake, as more data comes in and estimates are refined. Experts explained that the quake was caused by strike-slip faulting, which means 2 blocks of rock slid past each other sideways. This deep sideways movement of the earth also meant there was no danger of a tsunami for coastal communities. In San Jose del Palmar, the rural community closest to the earthquake's starting point, many homes were built simply with mud walls and wood. These traditional structures were not designed to withstand such a powerful shake. People began to leave their damaged homes and look around at the terrible destruction. They tried to understand what had happened and if their neighbors were safe. But just an hour later, the ground shook again violently. A new, powerful aftershock, measuring 5.0 magnitude, hit. Everyone who had just crawled out from their homes was terrified, wondering what else might fall apart next. 3. Broken cities. The earthquake caused devastating damage in many cities across Colombia. Cali, a big city, saw many buildings fall down. The University Hospital of the Valley was badly hit. About 1/3 of the hospital broke, including parts of the children's area and the neonatal unit. Hospital workers had to quickly move newborn babies and sick patients outside to open courtyards. This was a very scary time for everyone there. Many people came to the hospitals with injuries, and the medical teams quickly became overwhelmed. The ground also moved in Cali, causing landslides that trapped people. Rescuers were called to help these trapped families. In Pereira, a city known for coffee, the earthquake killed more people than in any other single city. The airport, Matecaña International, also suffered damage. Its passenger terminal partly collapsed, stopping flights and making travel difficult for many. Manizales, another mountain city, also saw much destruction. One of the tall towers of its historic cathedral broke and fell onto the church roof. This image was shared widely as a symbol of the great damage. In Chocó, near the earthquake's center and its capital, Quibdó, the situation was also very serious. Buildings were damaged and people were hurt. However, it was harder to know the full extent of the damage there. Much of the Chocó region does not have paved roads. Most homes in this area are made of mud walls and wood, which are not strong against earthquakes. This meant these buildings were easily damaged or destroyed. Rescue workers tried to get to these remote communities, but blocked mountain roads and new landslides made it very hard. Time was running out for families reported to be trapped under fallen earth and rubble as help struggled to arrive. 4. Why the earth moved. The earthquake measured 7.4. It happened about 107 kilometers deep inside the earth. This is called intermediate depth. When an earthquake is this deep, its energy spreads out very far through a large amount of rock. This means a very wide area feels the shaking. However, no single spot on the ground feels the full, terrible force right above the epicenter of the rupture. This is why many people in 4 different countries felt the quake, but the damage was spread out, not all in one small, concentrated area. The ground moved mostly sideways, a type of movement called strike-slip faulting, rather than pushing up and down. This deep origin also explains why there was no tsunami. Tsunamis are usually caused by shallow earthquakes that violently push the ocean floor upwards. But this quake was far too deep, 107 kilometers down. It was simply too deep to move the seafloor in a way that would create giant waves. So coastal communities were spared from this specific danger. Colombia sits on a very active part of the Earth. It's where 3 large pieces of the Earth's crust, called tectonic plates, all meet. These are the South American plate, the Nazca plate, and the Caribbean plate. Along Colombia's Pacific coast, the Nazca plate is slowly sliding and diving beneath the South American plate. This constant, slow, and powerful collision is the main reason for much of the earthquake activity in Western Colombia. This area experiences around 2,500 earthquakes every month, though most are too small for people to feel. But sometimes this stored energy releases in a big event. The earthquake also brought other serious dangers. One of them was liquefaction. This happens when soil that is full of water shakes very hard and suddenly acts like a liquid instead of solid ground. This can cause building foundations to sink, tilt, or even shift, which destroys the structures above them. Chocó, the department where the earthquake began, is one of the wettest places on Earth. Its soils are almost always saturated with water, making them very vulnerable to liquefaction. This was a major concern for many communities. Another severe danger was landslides. Landslides are common after earthquakes in the steep, wet mountains of the Colombian Andes. The strong shaking caused large amounts of earth and rocks to slide down hillsides. Many mountain roads were already damaged or blocked. With the ground turning to mush from liquefaction and heavy rains continuing to fall in the jungle, new, hidden threats were growing. These conditions created a risk that entire isolated villages could be swallowed by landslides before anyone could warn them or send help. 5. A new president. President Abelardo de la Espriella had been in his new job for only 3 days. It was his first Monday as president, and he faced a massive problem. A magnitude 7.4 earthquake had ripped through Western Colombia. He had taken office promising to crack down on crime and fix the country's tax system. Instead, his very first week became a test of his ability to lead during a disaster. He quickly called an emergency committee to guide the government's actions. To get urgent help and money, President de la Espriella declared a countrywide emergency. He spoke to the nation, reassuring them, "You are not alone. The state is present and taking action." The president showed his commitment by traveling personally to some of the hardest-hit areas, including Valle del Cauca and Chocó. He arrived in Cali to see the damage directly. He also promised to help move injured people from remote Chocó to bigger hospitals in Medellín for better treatment. The government quickly put its disaster response plans into mobilization. Colombia's National Disaster Risk Management Agency, UNGRD, set up command posts. They sent special urban search and rescue teams from cities like Bogotá, Medellín, and Yopal. Bogotá's own city government organized 6 donation points. People could bring water, blankets, food, and hygiene supplies. The capital also sent 100 of its own rescuers to the cities most affected. The earthquake caused immediate changes to daily life. In Cali, the mayor put an overnight curfew in place. He did this because he feared looting in the broken parts of the city. He ordered soldiers to patrol the streets alongside the police to maintain order. In Pereira, the mayor also declared a public calamity and a curfew. Schools were closed. He also asked for a car-free day to keep the roads clear for emergency vehicles, making it easier for rescuers to move. Colombia's professional soccer league postponed all matches scheduled in the affected cities. Even 2 international club matches had to be pushed back a week. Banks in the worst-hit departments closed their physical locations. However, officials quickly confirmed that debit and credit card networks were still working normally. The country's Senate postponed its planned meeting to focus on the urgent emergency. As the sun began to set on this fractured country, the new government faced a huge task. They had to keep order in the pitch-black streets, which were without power in many places. They worked through the night, completely unaware of what new challenges or terrible sights the morning light would reveal. 6. Help from the world. News of the disaster quickly spread, and help from all over the world began to arrive. The United States quickly offered its support. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the Trump administration was watching the earthquake closely and was ready to help the people of Colombia. Europe also offered its support. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the European Union was ready to provide more help. They even used special satellites to create maps to assist rescue operations. The United Nations also prepared to help. A spokesman said the organization was ready to assist as needed. Groups like the World Food Program, which gives food aid, and the Pan American Health Organization, which helps with health, confirmed they could support Colombian authorities. Many aid groups that already worked in the area began to assess what was needed. Direct Relief, a group that sends medical supplies, started checking urgent medical needs. Chef Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen also started to prepare emergency food for those affected. Even famous people showed their care. Pop star Shakira, who is from Colombia, shared messages on social media saying her heart was with everyone. Other countries from across Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East, including Israel, sent their good wishes and offered help. However, getting help to everyone was a big challenge, especially in the Chocó region. This area is a dense rainforest with almost no paved roads. It became a huge logistical nightmare to deliver heavy medical supplies and equipment. Reaching the most distant communities in Chocó could take many days. People there were already facing poverty and conflict, making the disaster even harder for them. Adding to these difficulties, Many humanitarian teams were already very exhausted. Just a few weeks before, they had been working to help people after two terrible earthquakes hit neighboring Venezuela. These teams had worked very hard to save lives there. Now, these same tired teams had to start another big rescue effort in Colombia. The question was whether they had enough strength and resources left to save the Colombians still trapped under the fallen buildings and earth. 7. Learning from the past. Colombia had faced big earthquakes before. Many people remembered the 1999 Armenia earthquake. It was a magnitude 6.2 quake that hit the Coffee region, especially the city of Armenia. This event was very deadly, killing over 1,185 people and hurting more than 5,000. A sad 60% of buildings in Armenia fell down. These were old buildings, often made with weak materials and without good engineering to withstand shaking. They were also built on bad ground, like old trash sites or steep hills. This terrible event made Colombia change its rules for building. Before 1999, there was already a basic building code from 1984, made after the 1983 Popayan earthquake. But the Armenia quake showed that more was needed. It pushed for even stronger rules. The new code, called NSR 98, came out in 1998, and it was updated again in 2010 to NSR 10. This new code made sure buildings were designed to be much safer during earthquakes, with stricter requirements for how they are built and what materials are used. These changes meant that new constructions could better resist strong tremors. The difference could be seen clearly. Structures built after the 1984 code mostly stayed up during the 1999 quake, but older, less formal homes crumbled easily. Now, in the recent 2026 earthquake, the same pattern appeared. Many modern glass buildings in cities like Cali or Bogotá shook but did not fall completely. They followed the newer safety rules and were built with modern seismic engineering. But in places like Chocó, near the epicenter, many homes were simple mud wall with wood structures. These houses are often built by people themselves without any modern design or safety checks to resist shaking. They are very vulnerable to earthquakes and easily break apart, trapping people inside. This situation shows a sad link between money and safety. Poorer areas, where people cannot afford to build strong code-compliant homes, suffer the most. When an earthquake hits, their homes fall, and many people die. This is not just a problem in Colombia, but in many parts of the world. Other nations, such as Haiti and Nepal, also see this tragic link between economic vulnerability and high death tolls from natural disasters. The old, weak structures often found in these communities become deadly traps, highlighting the unequal impact of such events. This knowledge from the past also brings a worrying thought for the future. What the country has learned hints at a much bigger, more dangerous truth. This truth is hidden right beneath the feet of millions of people living in Colombia's biggest city. 8. Looking to the future. The earthquake of August 10, 2026, left many important lessons. The final number of people who died was over 130. Many more were hurt. This disaster sadly showed how money and where people lived played a big part in who lived and who died. The poorest areas, like Chocó, suffered the most damage and had the most deaths. Many homes in these regions were old and built simply, often with mud walls and wood. These types of homes are very weak and fell easily during the shaking. In contrast, in bigger, richer cities, newer buildings that followed strong safety rules mostly stayed standing. They might have cracked, but they did not collapse completely. This meant that people with less money living in older, weaker homes faced the greatest danger. It was a sad truth. Economic inequality deeply affected the outcome of the tragedy. The event also made people seriously think about future dangers. Bogotá, the capital city of Colombia, is home to more than 8 million people. It is built on soft ground that was once a lake bed. This kind of ground can behave like liquid during a powerful earthquake, causing buildings to sink or tilt. Furthermore, Bogotá is located near two large fault lines. Scientists have repeatedly warned that a strong earthquake striking directly under Bogotá could be far more terrible than the recent one. A study from 2018 suggested that even a 7.0 magnitude earthquake near the capital could kill as many as 10,000 people and leave about 200,000 residents without homes. This is a terrifying thought for such a massive city. Even though the recent earthquake was very powerful, measuring 7.4 magnitude, its depth and location far from major population centers helped to reduce the number of deaths. A similar earthquake that happened closer to the surface, or one that hit right under a big city, would almost certainly cause a much larger catastrophe. Despite the widespread destruction, there was also a lot of bravery and kindness. People quickly helped their neighbors and strangers. The incredible resilience of the survivors was clear as they began the hard work of rebuilding their lives and communities. This disaster serves as a strong warning for other huge cities around the world. Many large urban areas, such as Mexico City, Manila, Istanbul, and Los Angeles, are also built on uneasy ground that is prone to strong shaking. The Colombian earthquake highlights that preparing for natural disasters is extremely important for everyone. Governments and individuals must create plans. They need to build stronger homes and schools. They must also learn what to do when the ground starts to move. If you lived in a city built directly over a major fault line, what steps would you take today to prepare for the next big earthquake? Tell us in the comments below.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world.